In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up a creative business on the legal and financial side. You already have the creativity, the art, you're already very skilled at whatever you're offering. So let me help you figure out how to make that business legit. Now, the first thing you want to do before you set up any of the legal stuff is choose a name that you're going to stick with. In general, I try to think about the longevity of names. So for instance, I went with Design by Laney as opposed to including my maiden name because I knew I'd probably get married and change my last name, and I didn't want to have to do a big rebrand. This can also apply to the style or your tagline. So if you bill yourself as calligraphy, then what happens if you change your services to offer something different than calligraphy? So I often like to think of more generic titles as opposed to something really specific. You should search your state's local business registry to see if there are any other businesses operating in your state under the same name. And then if you want to find something nationally, of course, you can search larger business registries, but in general, a Google search is pretty good. Sometimes when you smoosh your words together, like in a domain name, they are forming a new word or something that seems a little less appropriate than you expected, and you might not see it when the words are separated. So just kind of think about abbreviations, the words being smooshed together in domain style, like think about all the different permutations of this name that are possible so that you don't accidentally settle on something that's inappropriate. And then while you're looking into names, you want to check and see if the domains and social handles are available, because if someone else is using those, that suggests that they're already running a business under that name, and that could help you avoid accidentally infringing on someone or just putting yourself in a position where you're competing against someone with the same name and making it more difficult for clients to find you. So go ahead and snag those domains. Domains are typically like $20 a year or less when you're just starting out. And if you need to go with like .co or something, that's okay. That's not as unusual as it was in the past. However, think about who does own the .com and what they're doing with it. If they're just kind of sitting on it, it's not that big of a deal. But if they are running a business with it, they're always going to eclipse you if you're the .co. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but something to be aware of. After you've got a great name, you should decide on a tax filing status before you file any business paperwork. So there's a couple common ones in the US, and typically they're sole proprietorship, LLC, or S Corp. And if you're an individual and you don't have a lot of partners, one of those three will probably work. If you have partners, partnership is probably the best option. So a sole proprietorship is what most people start as, and it's a pass-through entity where you're going to pay your business's taxes on your personal income tax return. So the paperwork is a little bit simpler. This is often what a lot of creative businesses start as and is a great option. If you want to protect your liability, if you have some assets, if you have children, a home, etc., then you might want a little bit of separation. And for that, you can incorporate and be an LLC. This is going to require a little bit more paperwork, but in general can still be a pass-through entity. So you would still pay your taxes on your income tax return, and it can be pretty simple, but it separates your liability from your personal and your business. And then lastly, there's an S Corp. A lot of accountants say to switch to this when you're making like $70,000 a year in profit or more. Everyone's situations can be different. This is not official tax advice, but an S Corp is just a little further separation between your personal and business finances. You will file your business taxes separately. You can still pay them with your income tax returns, but you'll pay yourself a salary. So you will actually have a W-2. You'll withhold all your employment taxes, and it can save you a little bit of money from not paying as many self-employed taxes. So oftentimes people start with a sole proprietorship when they're just getting started, or a simple single member LLC. After you choose a name and know how you want to pay taxes, it's time to set up a separate bank account for your business. This is going to complicate money a little bit more, but it is so helpful to keep your finances for your business separate. This is the only way you can keep track of how much money is coming in and going out from the business without getting mixed up with your personal stuff. I would recommend setting up at the same bank that you bank out personally so that you can see everything in the same online portal. You can move money around easily as needed. And it's not necessarily a legal requirement if you're filing as a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC to separate all of your finances, but it's the only way that you can really keep track of how your business is doing financially and really get like the nitty-gritty that you'll need for bookkeeping and projecting and learning how to pay yourself a salary and all of those financial things you'll need to do as your business grows. So then legally, what do we need to do? You might have required local business licenses. Typically, what I would do is just Google your town and your county with the words business license afterward. So Denver, Colorado, business license. It's going to tell you what the requirements are, and I would always read the pages that are from the town, county, or state as opposed to outside blogs, etc., because these regulations can change over time pretty significantly. I remember when I started my business in San Diego, there was a requirement that we had to post our new business every Friday for 4 Fridays in a row in the newspaper. And it was such a weird, outdated seeming requirement, but that was just something that you had to do in San Diego County at that time. So make sure you get any licenses that are required by the county or city. Sometimes there's statewide ones, but usually those will be included in the city and county ones. And then you'll want to get a tax resale license and potentially a federal tax ID number. Both of these are very easy to get. A tax resale license is going to be from your state. So you'll just Google whatever state you're in and then tax resale license and follow those instructions because every state is different. This is going to allow you to sell goods that have sales tax on them. Every tax code is very, very different, so you'll have to figure it out. But generally, you want to tax all goods, some services, and if you have goods and services that overlap, you might need to tax those as well. Some states are destination-based, in which case you pay taxes based on where the product is going. Most states are origin states, where you pay taxes based on where the goods are coming from, so that's wherever your business is based. And then generally, you'll need to file your sales taxes every month, and you can either have these as a separate line item on your invoices, or you can include them in your packages and pay them once a month. And lastly, you may or may not be required to get a federal tax ID or EIN, employee identification number. Typically, sole proprietorships are not required to have these, but LLCs and S-Corps are generally required to have an EIN. You can apply for these directly on the irs.gov website, and they should be free. So if you get to a website where they're trying to charge you for it, that is probably a scam, and you should leave that website and find one for free. But it's really easy to apply for one. And then if you do change your business tax filing status, such as incorporating when you weren't incorporated before, then you might need to get a new EIN. I mentioned if you're a sole proprietor, you don't necessarily have to have one of these. However, I did find it really helpful when applying for wholesale accounts with a lot of my vendors. They did require it. So I've had one from the very beginning, even though it wasn't legally required. So let's recap how we're going to get our creative business set up and running the legit way. So first, we're going to choose a name and make sure the domains and handles on social media are available for that name. Then we're going to choose our tax filing status. A lot of people start as sole proprietorships, or you might want to start as a single member LLC or partnership. Once you have that, you should set up a bank account to help keep track of the financial transactions that are happening in your business and not mix those up with your personal transactions. And then we want to start looking into our licenses. So these are going to differ depending on where you live, but in general, you'll probably need some sort of business license, a tax resale license, and then you may or may not need a federal tax ID, but I still recommend it because it's free and easy and you probably will need it eventually. So once you have all of these things ready to go, you're pretty much legit and ready to start running your creative business. You might need other things such as business or liability insurance or a good contract to get started. However, this is going to vary a lot based on the type of business that you run. I personally teach stationery designers, graphic designers, calligraphers, invitation designers. So if you fall under that category, I hope you'll stick around and check out all of our other design and business videos while you're here. Let me know if this video was helpful, and thank you so much for watching.